Ark Invest's Director of Investment Analysis, Tasha Keeney, just shared Ark Invest's latest analysis on Tesla. And actually, it is a bit surprising. At Tesla's Investor Day, for the first time, we saw the accident rate per million miles driven in FSD. Previously, the Tesla safety report included only autopilot statistics. And while it looks great, I mean, you look at the US average and you have a collision for every 500,000 miles driven. But then if you look at vehicles that drive on FSD beta, when FSD beta is engaged, these vehicles only get into crashes once every 3.2 million miles. And there has been a lot of talk how that data is probably not really accurate because you only use FSD when the conditions are not really that bad. But if you go into a zone where you have a lot of kids potentially running on the streets and you have weird construction zones, you're just not gonna use full self-driving in situations like that. And Ark Invest does agree that this data is skewed, however, not in the way that you would think. So Tasha says here that one accident per 3.2 million FSD miles looks indeed better than the national average, right? However, I would argue the comparison is not apples to apples, as FSD worked only on surface streets until version 11.3. Also, how does this compare to a manually driven Tesla? Let's compare it across surface streets only. And this is where it starts to get a little bit interesting. Surface streets have more frequent accident rates than highways. So the number that you see here includes highways. The US average includes highways, but this here does not include highways because FSD beta did not work on highways. And guess what? You have less accidents on highways. So this data is not going to be correct here. Surface streets have more frequent accident rates than highways. Adjusting the national average and the non-autopilot rate given in Tesla safety report, a Tesla in FSD looks 5 times safer than a Tesla in manual mode. But then if you compare the numbers to the national average, if you just look at adjusted million miles per crash on surface streets only, Tesla FSD is still the same because FSD only worked on city streets, and the national average now drops to 0.17. So this is a lot more than just 10 times better. It is about 19 times better. Some caveats, of course, a driver might disengage FSD in the most difficult driving moments, of course, which might boost miles per accident. Not might. It does boost it. Also, the national average includes cars that don't have features like auto emergency braking, which all Teslas, of course, do. So that will further skew the data, and that will bring down the average, the national average for all other cars, which is now standard on all new cars sold in the US. And of course, Teslas also have a whole list of active safety features that come standard in every car, which work whether autopilot is engaged or not. If you drive in a city in a Tesla compared to an average car, you are probably 4 times safer, roughly, in a Tesla. Another caveat, also note that the national statistics include more than just passenger cars, but passenger cars make up the majority of vehicles in crashes and of total miles. We are also talking about all crashes, including fatal and non-fatal. Lastly, I'm using 2019 crash data because latest available is 2020, which could have a skew. But for these purposes, the data are nearly the same. Also, how did she calculate exactly what the number of collisions is just inside the cities, basically, not on highways? Because I'm not sure if the government really provides that data exactly like that. I think you need to calculate it by yourself somehow, basically. Tasha explains right here how she calculated this. 73% of vehicle miles traveled are on highways, while only 25% of accidents are on highways. The highway-only accident rate is 1.4 million miles per crash versus 170,000 miles per crash for surface streets. Smart. Manually driven or non-autopilot Tesla miles have a slightly higher ratio of surface street miles. Because if you have a Tesla and you go on a highway, because autopilot works so well for so many people on a highway, you use autopilot. So when you get the data, when you see the data of how many miles Teslas drive when they are not on autopilot, naturally you will have a higher percentage than normal of these cars driving on city streets if they are not engaged in autopilot. And so, adjusting for 10% of all fleet miles that occur in autopilot, 9 billion in autopilot out of 90 billion cumulative miles on cars with autopilot. Note, I use a global stat which is likely higher in the US. I adjust the accident rates to their surface street equivalent using these ratios of percentage of miles and percentage of accidents for surface streets. I think many of us really appreciate Tasha's work here, which make Tesla's numbers look quite a bit better. We also know a few more new things about Cybertruck that we did not know before, so let's take a look. Matthew says here that he knows trucks. He has owned 6 F-150s, including a handful of Raptors. He worked at a Ford dealership through college, and he drives his trucks in snow, on gravel, and dirt roads. He tows boats and trailers, and he compares the Cybertruck to the F-150, America's best-selling vehicle. The vehicle on display at Investor Day is a Cybertruck pre-production beta, meaning if a truck was released today, it would be configured like this. But of course, we know that Tesla is never pencils down, so we all, of course, expect that there would be some small changes. I shared the dimensions in the last video, so pause if you would like to take a longer look. Tesla staff told me the pre-production Cybertruck is about 5% smaller than the prototype unveiled in 2019. The Cybertruck seems ever so slightly smaller than an F-150 Raptor, but with more usable space. The Cybertruck hood opens like a Model X. The front bumper grill area does not open like in the F-150 Lightning, which is, I think, the only thing I prefer about the Lightning to the Cybertruck. If you have a baby, that certainly can be quite helpful, as it just makes everything a little bit easier. And if you are putting bags, and if you're not that tall, if you're putting something heavy, you have to lift things up high. If it's not like that, if it is like this, then you just sort of just put everything in like that. I guess with a Model X, it doesn't really matter because the vehicle is not that tall, but the Cybertruck is going to be a bit taller. But because the nose of a Cybertruck is quite a bit shorter, the Cybertruck has quite a bit bigger bed in the back. And I think for a truck, you want more space in the back, right? There will be 2 Cybertruck variants, a dual motor and what I'm going to call a performance. I don't know the official name. Initially, Tesla announced that top trim would be a tri-motor, but in December 2021, Elon said the initial variant would be a quad motor. However, after discussions with staff, I believe Tesla is reverting back to the tri-motor powertrain for the Cybertruck like a Model S X Plaid. There will be no single motor. All Cybertruck variants will have rear wheel steering standard. The componentry for the rear wheel steering is between the wheelhouse and the cab. That is why there is no open space past the wheelhouse like in a traditional truck. There does not appear to be storage compartments in the Cybertruck sales anymore, but staff would not comment on this. All Cybertruck variants will have 5 seats due to the beta being 5% smaller than the prototype. Tesla removed the front row center seat. The Cybertruck will have Tesla's biggest display ever at 18.5 inches versus Model S and X, which have 17 inches. No gauge cluster display, no heads-up display. second row console screen like Model S and X. This is how the steering wheel is going to look like. The Cybertruck windshield light bar will make it to production and contain amber white with lights like the Tesla Semi. We covered the suspension before, and the suspension is huge. I mean, the cylinders are huge. Pause here if you'd like to see what the tires are. I wonder if the cover will stay exactly like this, about $400 per tire. The Cybertruck doors are not self-presenting like the Model X. There are release buttons on the B and C pillars that pop out the doors. The Cybertruck is Tesla's first vehicle to use 48-volt architecture. This means high gauge wiring, lighter and cheaper, a smaller accessories battery, and more power. And there's a whole team dedicated for Cybertruck accessories. The accessories team is designing products for multiple customer personas such as off-roading, camping, and Baja racing. Cybertruck bumpers and side skirts are plastic, 5-mile-per-hour impact compliant, not steel like prototype. I asked if they are easily removed so owners could install aftermarket steel bumpers, and I was told you won't have to go aftermarket. Looks good. And the bed might be watertight, and possibly it may have drain plugs. And this is the Tesla stock buying opportunity explained by Elon Musk. My name is Matt Postius. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.